everybody. You found Bottom Tier Collector, and I'm your host, the Bearded One. As always, thank you for liking, subscribing, and commenting. Any support you give me and my channel is always much appreciated, guys. I really do mean that. So let's get into it. I recently finished the Blade movies. In fact, it's been about a week or two since I finished these Blade movies. And I actually recorded the same exact video. Just for some reason I deleted it or didn't hit the record button or something was up with that recording. So I'm going to redo the recording again. I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about each Blade movie and then fit them into my MCU rankings. And you know what? I actually think I'm going to fit them into my MCU rankings with this being my third take here off the dome. I'm going to go a little bit different here. I think I'm going to make this video a little more interesting. I'm going to talk about the Blade movies as I'm fitting them into my MCU rankings. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single MCU movie. I'm not even going to name every MCU movie. If I do, it'll just be in comments or something. I'm not going to do a deep dive here. I'm going to try and give you guys a digestible video here that isn't too long and too talky, boring. But just to lay some groundwork here to provide some context, I'll have a bottom tier, which is the MCU movies that are either utter garbage in my opinion, or they are just movies that I don't feel compare to the movies above them. I've got a middle tier, which is it's all right, it's okay. Then I've got a sub tier, which I am calling honorable mentions. They're right outside the goat list. I consider the GOAT my top 5, and then I got the GOAT list, the top 5 MCU movies, which I will absolutely cover. So at the very bottom of this list, I think I have to put Blade, House of Chthon at the very bottom. Yeah. It fits within the framework of the Wesley Snipes trilogy. So it has that going for it. It still has that same continuity going for it. However, and the actor was okay. I don't know much about Sticky Fingers or his civilian name, as I call people that have a stage name. I don't know his real name, but he's the rapper Sticky Fingers. Don't know much about him. I know he's in the rap group Onyx, and I believe I've heard a song or two, and it was pretty good. I thought his acting was straight. He kept the spirit of what Wesley Snipes portrayed alive. It almost felt like I was watching Wesley Snipes in terms of the acting, not the choreography. The choreography changed sharply. They went away from the kung fu that was in the Wesley Snipes trilogy. I didn't care for that. And then Spike Lee helped produce the movie they came in. I don't even think Warner Brothers had anything to do with this House of Chthon movie, and that kind of tainted it for me. I'm not a prude, but I am a married man. I don't need to get my thrills from over-sexualization in media. I can get that for free if you're picking up what I'm putting down. And so, again, not a prude. I don't claim to be a religious man per se. However, it just takes me out of the movie when the focus is more on the skimpy dress the characters or the female leads are in, or just the over sexualization of this movie. And there was plenty of sexualization in the Blade trilogy, but it just felt like it worked. It felt like it made sense in the Blade trilogy. In House of Chthon, it just felt gratuitous, and it just kind of made the movie B tier. Kind of felt like an amateur porn without the nudity. It really kind of did. And I didn't care for that. I also don't get into vampires looking pretty and twinkly and whether it's Twilight or Van Helsing or reading the Dracula book or going to see Dracula on Broadway. Vampires always have this clean skin, pretty romantic look about them, no matter the iteration. And I just don't care for that. And the main protagonist was this blonde hair guy with clear steel skin. He stayed up to date on his acne wash. And it just didn't work for me. And also, Blade wasn't even the main character in his own movie. It's called Blade House of Chthon, and yet, I think her name is Cora Starr. I could be wrong there. You'll have to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But the main female lead was the point of view character. The story was about her story, and it just felt like Blade was the sidekick. It really did. The movie was all about her journey, and I just wasn't infatuated. There was also a gratuitous scene with Chuck Liddell, and I understand the UFC and Spike TV at the time. I don't even know if Spike TV still exists. They might just be Spike now. But they're connected with the UFC, so I understand why Chuck Liddell was in there. But the fight didn't even have to be there. I could have done without that entire scene. It was real corny. He's like giving the tattoo to a naked chick, and we got the one nude scene there. Whatever. But yeah, and then the fight kind of sucked. There was no martial arts. It was all kung fu, and you got a guy who's literally a mixed martial artist in Chuck Liddell, and you got Blade, who I've seen for 3 movies now, use martial arts, and the fight was more or less a bar fight. Just kind of whack. It didn't work for me. So yeah, I'd put Blade at the bottom of the MCU, and next above that I would put Civil War. Very hot take, I know. I'm not going to spend too much time on Civil War other than to say my biggest gripe with Civil War is that they called it Civil War. That was not a Civil War at all. I've never read Civil War. I'm going to be transparent and honest about that, but I do understand the event affected the entire Marvel universe. Now, I understand the business side of movies. It costs money to make a movie. It costs money to pay actors. You can only get so many actors in these movies. You've also, if you want to do it right, you have to establish characters before you get to Civil War. There's also the issue of time. These actors are getting older, and you have to make certain movies before actors get too old to have these movies. I get all this. I understand. But at the same time, you should not have called Captain America Civil War. I don't care if the dispute between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers was in spirit of the Civil War event. It was not a Civil War. It should have been called Captain America Scuffle in a Parking Lot. That's exactly what it was. It was like 8 characters duking it out. Nobody watched. They didn't even have the news there to film the event, if I remember the movie correctly. And then most of the movie, since it was a Captain America movie, the bulk of the movie was his own story. And then they were just trying to cram in other characters just so they could get Spider-Man on camera and we could see Ant-Man grow big. Like, whatever. Don't care. Big disservice to that movie to call it Civil War. And I'm getting heated, and I try to be very positive with on camera on this channel. I don't want to spread negative energy, so I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna place it down at the doorstep, and I'm done. I'm wiping my hands clean. I can have my opinion. You can have yours. Please feel free to put your opinions in the comments. I welcome your discourse. So let's move on. Okay. Third worst MCU movie. We're now going up the ladders. I'd have to say Thor Dark World. It was so bad, I don't even remember anything about Thor Dark World. I watched it one time. I'll never watch it again unless I have to. If there's a reference to Thor Dark World, and I just had this burning desire to rewatch Thor Dark World, to remember that reference, to go back and, connect dots, then I'll watch Thor Dark World. But until then, I'm not worried about Thor Dark World. I didn't remember what happened. I just remembered it was so bad that I don't need to watch it a second time. So we're moving up. Now we're going to the second. Uh, the second we're going up towards the it was okay movie stuff. So the fourth worst, if you want to go that way, we should be counting up instead of down. The fourth worst MCU movie for me was Iron Man 2. Most of the movie was okay. I just think the payoff was garbage. That's really what it comes down to. Possibly the worst payoff of any MCU movie to date. I thought the boss fight between Whiplash was such a cool concept and character, and when he got on that racetrack whipping those cars, that was a really cool scene. It put a lot of heat behind Whiplash. I forget his name, and I want to call him Gary Busey, but I'm pretty sure that is not who it is. But the actor was so great for Whiplash, and I wanted so much more from that boss fight, and it was kind of whack. The boss fight. It totally took me out of the movie. It really irritated me and ruined my mood. You had a good movie building to the boss fight. It was getting there, and then boss fight, done. And I just didn't appreciate that whatsoever. So yeah, that's what it comes down to for Iron Man 2 being the fourth worst Marvel movie I've seen. And then finishing up the top where it's almost it was good, but still pretty much in the bottom tier section of my rankings. Thor 1. I thought it was totally corny, totally cheesy, and from start to finish, and then the big boss fight, I'm like, Thor's literally fighting a big robot. Like, I'm watching a Jack Kirby 1950s comic book in, what was it, 2009? Like, are we serious? Is this really what we're doing? We have all this technology, we have all this history to tell a Thor story with, and we're going with Thor's going to fight a giant robot. Like, really? That's what we're doing. It just felt corny. It was too corny, not in a good way, not in the Suicide type corny where it's funny watching Starro. It's meant to be funny. No, Thor was trying to take itself serious. Let's admit that, MCU fans. Thor was trying to take himself serious in Thor 1. And the bad guy was not serious at all. Didn't even feel threatening. It felt like I was reading a 1960s comic book. So yeah, that rounds out the bottom tier. Let's get out of the bottom tier. Let's move that negativity aside. Let's go on to other stuff. So we're trying to fit in where the Blade movies fit in the MCU. And surprisingly, none of the other Blade movies fit into the meh, it's okay category. I really thoroughly enjoyed the Wesley Snipes trilogy that much. I really did. So let's skip a whole slew of movies that we don't need to cover because the Blade movie doesn't fit into this tier. Let's move into my honorable mentions. So my honorable mentions are somewhere between it's good and man, Marvel's really made a masterpiece here. So I would have to put Iron Man 3 in that take. And I know this is a hot take, but you guys got to understand, I'm not the biggest MCU fan. I'm not the biggest Marvel fan out there. I'm definitely not an Iron Man fan. I don't read Iron Man comic books. But what I do know is I am an Iron Man 3 fan. I don't care that Submariner was mishandled. I thought the character was funny and goofy at the end. It did not bother me one bit. I really thought seeing all the Iron Man suits at the end was super cool. Really, really, really super cool. I liked the plot. Everything about Iron Man 3 was really, really good. Not great, but really good. Enough for me to feel confident on camera to say I like Iron Man 3 that much. I'll have to, and adding to that, I'll put Iron Man 1. It's the start of the MCU. Robert Downey Jr. really established himself as the Tony Stark. He defined the character. He Also, there was some genre-defining moments in Iron Man 1 where when Tony Stark reveals himself. Again, I knew nothing about Tony Stark or Iron Man watching that movie. And I thought it was really cool and really creative that Tony Stark revealed his identity to the world. That pretty much marked the end of the secret identity. It really did, at least for Marvel. I think DC still tries to loosely put secret identities into their comics and movies, but I feel like Iron Man 1 really marked the end of the secret identity and the need for that gimmick. I don't really have feelings either way about secret identities. I think in some ways it can make storytelling fun. I think in other ways it can make it feel corny. The choice is up to you whether you like secret identities or not. Moving on, I have to put Eternals. I defended Eternals. Eternals is really good. Was it a great movie? I don't know if I would change much. I really liked how the story went, but they did have some downside. Didn't like Sprite. I thought Sprite was too bratty. And while Kingo was funny, I couldn't take Kingo seriously, so I wish there would have been a dark moment with Kingo. The dark moments where you were supposed to feel for Kingo just didn't hit like I would want them to, in a way that they hit for Gilgamesh and Thena and oh my gosh, the main female lead, forget her name, and Icarus, and even the guy that can mind control. Durgis. Is it Durgis was his name? Oh, I can't remember. It's been a week or two since I've seen Eternals, and I haven't read any Eternals material. I was brand new to Eternals, but I loved it. Thena is now an all-time favorite character for me, and I'm gonna have Eternals 5 in the collection one day. I really enjoyed Thena that much. And then I would put Blade 3 right here in the honorable mentions. I really liked it a lot, but it wasn't great. I think the trilogy was winding down, kind of losing its luster. The plot was a touch corny. It was like, okay, we defeated this bad guy, now let's face a stronger version of this bad guy. Okay, now this is the ultimate vampire. So Blade is a vampire hunter, for those of you who know nothing about Blade, like I did when I watched these movies. And in the third one, he goes to the Vampire Nation, resurrects the original vampire. No, it's not Dracula. It's somebody else with a really long, ancient name. And Blade is sent to fight the original vampire, and with the help of Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel. I don't remember Jessica Biel's name. She happens to be Chris Christopherson. The character he played, Jessica Biel, is that character's daughter, and then Ryan Reynolds plays King. I picked this up at the end. They are the Night Stalkers. Now I don't know how accurate this is to the comic book, but whenever I've been dollar bin hunting and seeing a Night Stalkers book, I don't see anybody that resembles Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel. So I'm going to say that maybe those books, maybe the adaptation, the Night Stalker adaptation, isn't accurate to the comic books. But hey, the movies never claim to be page-for-page adaptations. I really thought the kung fu and the fight choreography was really good. It was really a lot better than a lot of these MCU movies, which is surprising because you got more technology nowadays. You don't have as much technology back when these Blade movies were being made. And then let me pause here, guys. All right, I'm back. So that's where Blade 3 fits in the honorable mentions. I'm also going to put Guardians of the Galaxy 2 beside that. There's a lot of replay ability here. And I really thoroughly enjoy my son enjoying Baby Groot. The comedic moments in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 are fantastic, and just make it a really good, solid addition to the MCU. Uh, I also have to put in the honorable mentions as they're coming to me. Uh, I'm going to put Blade 2 here in the honorable mentions. I really liked Blade 2. I could almost put Blade 2 in the GOAT list, because Blade 2 sort of enhances and sort of built on Blade 1, and in some ways was a better movie than Blade 1. I thought it was cool. We got a lot of big name stars. We got Ron Perlman, either pre or during Hellboy, so that was really cool. Donnie Yen, my favorite Hollywood martial artist, was in Blade 2, and while he didn't get to flex his martial arts, he got a really cool sword scene with a vampire, and that was a really nice scene just to see a guy I'm a big fan of in Blade 2. I've seen so many movies with Donnie Yen now. I like that it felt like there were stakes in the game. In this movie, people died. People freaking died in Blade 2. Let me tell you. And spoiler alert, you might want to skip about a minute or so of this movie right now. And I'll give you that second to fast forward. But spoiler alert, the main female lead dies. She died. There's no coming back. There's no resurrection. Blade didn't get the girl like I thought he would get in the second movie. And the bad guys were actually killed dead. Like, there was no coming back. There was no resurrection. Like, I really liked how finite the movie felt. It just really made those moments, made them easier to take serious. My only knock on Blade 2, why I wouldn't put it on the GOAT list, is the setting. They spend the majority of the movie in the majority of the climax in Blade 2 in these sewers, killing off the vampires, and I just felt like that could have been handled differently. It just felt like something I'd seen before, and while the Blade movies are clearly not trying to be something totally original and unique, they're just trying to be good at what they're supposed to be. I wish they hadn't gone with the sewer stuff. That's a nitpick, still a great movie. Alright, now moving into the GOAT list. At my 5th favorite Marvel movie. Now keep in mind, everything in between the GOAT and the bottom tier is not in any direct order. It just fits where it does, and I'm not too concerned with the rankings in between bottom tier and GOAT list. So number 5 on my GOAT list is Doctor Strange 1. Fantastic movie, pulled at my heartstrings. I thought the effects with Dormammu was kind of but other than that small nitpick, the movie was fantastic. I love Doctor Strange's back origin story. It was my introduction to Doctor Strange, and he became my favorite character in the MCU after I saw Doctor Strange. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy 1. I freaking love that movie. I got introduced to Peter Quill through this movie. And Peter Quill's the first character I felt like I could root behind. Up until Guardians of the Galaxy 1, I was just kind of watching the MCU from afar as a casual fan, not rooting for anybody, just observing. And I finally, once I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and I got attached to Peter Quill and his backstory that tugged at my heartstrings, I finally had somebody I could root for in the MCU, and I'll always acknowledge Guardians of the Galaxy 1 for doing that for me, even though a lot of people may not rank it so high. Number 3, I gotta put Blade 1. It's my first high. Again, I say there's nothing like the first high. Noticing a trend here. First high for Doctor Strange, first high for Peter Quill. I liked Blade that much. I could put Blade next to the likes of RoboCop and Terminator. He fits that mold, the mold I grew up on 80s and 90s action hero movies. just a no nonsense, ass kicking, taking names kind of hero. There's no emotion here. There was a scene where so the backstory in the movie, I don't know about the comics, but Blade's mother was bitten and she died and gave birth to Blade. And Blade became a night, a daywalker, as they call him, half vampire, half human. And there's a scene near the climax of the movie where he discovers his mother has joined the Vampire Nation and he's supposed to fight his mother. I said this in the other video, but there was not a lot of emotion here. Blade knew what he had to do. He had to save the day. He had to kick ass and take names. There were no tears. Wesley Snipes was not going for the Oscar. He kicked her butt because he knew that wasn't his mother in that body anymore. And then he went and kicked the main antagonist's butt. I love the Kung Fu. The Kung Fu impressed me the most. That was a high point of Blade 1. Again, comparing these movies to now, I think the choreography in Blade is superior to the MCU. Granted, it's martial arts, and martial arts looks a lot prettier than brawling does. More traditional style of fighting in the Western part of the world. But I really appreciated the choreography, and the effects were good. A lot of the effects held up to the test of time. And I think Blade 1 is just a fantastic movie. My only real nitpick with Blade 1 is that the villain was just too babyface. I wish they would have gone with someone either older or just someone with a different feature set on his face. I just didn't really like how babyface and pretty the villain was. He looked like a model for a Calvin Klein ad or something. I didn't really like that. But other than that, again, fantastic movie. Moving on to my number 2 MCU movie, Thor Ragnarok. This was the turning point for the character Thor. I'm sure you've heard this a million times. But for me personally, from Thor 1 up until Thor Ragnarok, I was getting really irritated and annoyed with Thor. I was getting turned off of the character. I remember texting a friend while I'm watching Avengers 2, like, why is he hammering people? He's literally the god of thunder. And my friend, I remember my buddy told me, just wait till you get to Thor Ragnarok. And I finally got everything I was looking for and waiting for this whole time in Thor Ragnarok. It finally took to Thor Ragnarok for Thor to reach his full potential, and then he goes ham in Infinity War and Endgame. Some of my favorite scenes in those movies, and I thought the comedy worked. There's a scene where Jeff Goldblum is showing Thor around while he's playing a song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I gut busted out loud. I literally LOL'd out loud. I loved that moment, and I thought everything worked in Thor Ragnarok. There was enough emotion there to add some depth there and make the movie a little complex, as well as it wasn't too goofy. And so yeah, number 2, Thor Ragnarok. Number 1. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't know how many of you out there have seen the movie. But Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, this will be spoiler free. It was just an emotional roller coaster. It gave me everything I want. I had some low points where I was crying in the movie. I had some points where I'm like, this is really badass. Tons of fan service. I don't want to say too much about fan service, but tons of fan service. I've never had a fanboy moment in the theater watching a Marvel movie. Yes, and I'm saying that in 2022, having already seen Infinity War, Endgame, Civil War, Winter Soldier, all these GOAT movies everybody talks about. Never had a fanboy moment. I never was like, oh my God, I've even seen No Way Home. Saw that in a movie theater. A guy in the movie theater got out of his seat, was like, woo, for No Way Home. And it was not me. It was just a cool movie. The No Way Home. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. But I had a fanboy moment here, and I was committing the movie theater sin of texting people during the movie. Granted, there was like 5 people in there. It was a 10 o'clock matinee on a Tuesday. And so, I wasn't bothering too many people in there. I was just like, oh my God, they did it. They did it. Oh my God, F, 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 F. You know, it gave me those moments. I felt like this was the first time I felt like I felt like I could be a real Marvel fan. I've always been just a Mutants fan, just a Moon Knight fan. But when I saw Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness, I finally felt like I was part of the club. I finally understood what everybody was getting. So that is my rankings. I'll just end with some closing comments here. I know this is a hot take list. I know it is. I know you're probably wondering, where's Endgame? Where's Infinity War? Where's Avengers 1? Where's this movie? Where's that movie? Your top five's out of whack. You got Iron Man 3 way too high. I can't believe you got Civil War way that low. I'm not a Marvel fanboy when it comes to where my allegiances lie. My allegiances lie with that's my GOAT character. That's my second favorite character. That's also my second favorite character. I'm a DC guy, plain and simple. Most of my comic book knowledge comes from DC. I don't care about the overarching stories in Marvel. I really don't. I don't know if I'll ever read them. I don't care about the Avengers. I don't care about the flagship characters in Marvel right now. Iron Man, Captain America. I like Thor now, but I don't read Thor. The history's too daunting, so I don't even read characters I like. Same with Doctor Strange. The character's so old. I just am intimidated to get started in Doctor Strange. If I was going to do it the way I'd want to do it, I'd probably have to subscribe to Marvel Unlimited and read those old issues of Thor and Doctor Strange. Peter Quill, same. He's like a Bronze Age character. I've been collecting for so long that I just kind of know what I'm kind of found my lane, I found my groove, and that's where I'm staying. If I read anything else at this point that's new, it's probably going to be digital. So yeah, that's why my ranking is the way it is. I don't have the baggage of knowing the source material. I've seen all these movies completely blind, not knowing the source material at all, except for I did reference source material with Civil War. Never read it. I just understand that the gravity of the Civil War was not there in the movie as it was in the comics. And so yeah, that's why I've got such a hot take MCU list. If you guys disagree, or you agree, or you just want to talk about the MCU in general, leave some comments in the description. Really, leave some comments in the comments section. I welcome the discourse. Exercise your First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, and let me hear what you guys think. Was my list whack? Was my list great? Was it Do you like the Blade movies? Do you hate the Blade movies? Am I overhyping Blade? Am I too narrow-minded? Do I need to read the source material to maybe appreciate some of these other movies a little better? Let me know, guys. I'd love to hear